Hello there, everybody. This is Robert at Prophecy Spotlight. Um, we often do what we call spotlights on different events. Um, I did one in French last week on Russia and Ukraine, and we had many viewers. I think the first one gave us over 7,000 views, the other 4,000. So it keeps going up, and the subscriptions have coming in like this, you know. So I thought I would do the same with the English channel. I'm gonna do what I did in French, except I'm gonna do it in English, and I will see how many likes we have and how many subscribers we can get. I'm gonna do 3 videos. Russia in the scriptures, and then number 2 we're going to go into Genesis 10 chapter 2, where we find the name Gomer and the name Magog. We're gonna retrace all these names in Ezekiel 38 to Genesis 10 2 and 3. And the same thing for number 3. We're gonna go further. And if I have enough subscribers, I will also do 3 more on Can We Trust Russia? This is taken from the Old Testament, the Assyrian, which is the historic Assyrian, which was not to be trusted, and the prophetic Assyrian, which is Magog. Can we trust Magog, or can we trust Russia? I doubt. If I look back at scriptures in the Old Testament, 3 times the historic Assyrian did not keep his word. So I don't think we can expect more today in 2022. Anyways, we're gonna start, and let me know. Please do subscribe, and when you do subscribe, do not forget to put the bell. There's a bell there, ding ding ding. Push that bell, and this means you will receive the next one. You will be automatically told that the next one can be viewed now. So here we go. I'm gonna switch to the quarter screen like this. Okay, Russia in scriptures. We're going to be looking at Ezekiel 38 and 39. Now, the first thing we want to understand is that the founder of the Russian Empire was Peter the Great, and we'll talk about him. It's very important. He made a testament, and this is very important. Okay, and now the present. Now, this is where we are in the present. We have this man, Vladamir Putin. Right? So we have the past, Peter the Great. We have today, this gentleman. And then there will be what we call the last Tsar of Russia. Right? The last Tsar of Russia. So there we will make a prophetic jump very far away. Okay? So this is what we want to cover. So Ezekiel 38 verse 2, Gog, the prince or Tsar of Magog, Russia. So the territory is, just want to get those pointers here. So the territory is Magog. The king, the prince, the Tsar is Gog. Gog, the prince of Magog. Very simple, okay? One is the territory, the other one is the leader. Now, Peter Great, in the period 1672 to 1725, he made a will. At the end of his life, he made a will that is being followed now by the Tsar Vladimir Putin. He is what Peter the Great said Vladimir is doing the same exact thing. Okay, so it's important to understand that. If you want to see where Russia is going, you need to go back to Peter the Great and his last will to his people. Now, Peter the Great was looking west. When I say west, he was looking at Europe. And what I mean by Europe, he was very much interested in France, especially le domaine Versailles. At that time, talking about the time of Peter the Great, Europe had a system of railway system for several years, and yet Russia was way behind. So there was development, there was technical advance in Europe, and this really attracted Peter the Great. How come they are so advanced and were so slow? Doesn't make sense. Now, another thing that he liked was the free lifestyle and the morals of Versailles. That really attracted him. He liked that style of life, you know. Now, he made several trips to Europe, which helped shape his mind, his way of thinking. So the European nobility has left its mark on Peter the Great. Yes, he was really, it left something on him. Now, in St. Petersburg, where the Tsar lived, there were even parties held in European styles. Remember, he likes Versailles, so he is going to do the same thing at St. Petersburg palaces. Even some evenings were held in French. Just imagine that. He was so interested in what France was doing that in Russia they were having parties at night, but all being done in French. The bourgeoisie Russia liked to talk French. So he looked at the West and loved the West. So here we go, let's do like Versailles, he says. Eh? So they dressed themselves like the French did. Now, the political trend. Will USSR, now Russia, will they turn west in the days of Peter the Great? Or will they turn east? So this was the great discussion at that time. Shall we do like the West or shall we do like the East? Right? Now, Istanbul. I'm going to relate a personal experience. Istanbul, 1970. These were the days that I traveled for a year or two, and I spent a lot of time in Asia. I did Europe, then I went to Asia, lived in Kabul, Afghanistan for 3 months, went to India, went to Nepal, and all these places. But what impressed me most is when I left the West, and when you leave the West, you come to Istanbul. You are now in the East. Okay, that's the gate towards the East. So once you're in Istanbul, everything changes. It is not Europe at all. It is completely different. People yak chai, they want to have tea with you, and they want you to sit down and bargain with them and things like that, you know. But it was very, very different. And for me, it was very, very surprising. So much impressed that once I got into Istanbul, I said, now I gotta go more east and east and east. And if I can, I'll go around the world. So it's Robert here, myself, in Turkey, heading to Nepal. Now, like I say, in the 70s, I arrived at Istanbul, Turkey. Now, at that time, I remember very well, there was a movement towards the West, eh? Towards Europe. People wanted to dress like Europe. They all wanted to buy jeans, Levi's, and things like that. And to the young people, especially at Istanbul, the young people were looking west, you know, and they wanted the lifestyle of the West. Now, it was very clear in Istanbul that this new generation preferred the West to the East. Now, the question I ask myself, how long will this last? Will Turkey, especially Istanbul, will they adopt the Western style or go back to the Eastern style? And then suddenly, around the year 2000, the people of Turkey completely turned east. Eh? Why? Well, it's very simple. East is their roots. The Sharia law was introduced, and the women started now to cover their face. In Istanbul, it was there, but it was not what was practiced 100%. It was more like 50%, you know. But then suddenly, when 2000 happened, there was a big change. Okay. I remember those years, and I remember when this happened, when I saw that, I said to myself, okay, now they have chosen to follow the Eastern customs. Okay. And this is really what happened. And then we get this gentleman, came into power, President Erdogan. Now, what he wants to do, he wants to mobilize the whole East under his Turkish leadership. You remember the Ottoman Empire, the Turkish Empire? These were the great days of Turkey. They controlled even Jerusalem, you know, all the way from Turkey to Jerusalem, they controlled for years and years and years. So now he has this aspiration, this dream, that Turkey can again unite all the Muslims and get them to be a superpower, of which he, President Erdogan, will be, of course, the leader. You know, well, that's what he cherishes. Now, let's go back to Peter the Great. Now, before Peter the Great passed away, he came to a conclusion. He asked himself, how can Russia become a great power? That's the question he asked himself at the end of his life. So he looked around. And then he saw this small island, an English island. You know, he saw England. And there we go. This is what he saw. He saw England here. This small island, very small compared to Russia, so small and minuscule compared to Russia. But yet, many nations were under the control. India, under the control of England. Egypt became under the control of England. And he said to himself, how come? Why such a small island is so powerful? And he reasoned it out. And then he came to this eureka. He came to this, I got it. He says, I got it. A maritime fleet. This is why England is so powerful. It is small in territory, but very powerful as a superpower because it has a fleet of ships by which it can go in the oceans and control these far away countries. So as soon as he got that, he had his testament in his mind. So he wrote what we call the last will of Peter the Great, a testament dedicated to the Russian people. Now the main point, I'm just going to show you the main point of his will. By the way, you can just Google that, the will of Peter the Great, and you'll get to it. But I'm just going to take out a few points, and you will see in these points how Vladimir Putin is just following it up, following it up. So Peter the Great said, my successors should follow this course of action in order to acquire universal domination. That's the main thing here, universal domination. And this is what Russia aims at, to control the world, to be the masters of the world. First of all, Peter said, Russia must build a large maritime fleet. Most important, that's the first thing. Prioritize of building ships and building a marine fleet. We need to do that. The second point that Peter the Great said is that he realized that Russia was landlocked. No real access to the seas, right? It needs to occupy territory where seaports will have access to international seas. So being landlocked, they needed to look north to get a seaport there, which they did. They got from Denmark and Sweden, they got a territory there, and they eventually had a seaport there. But it's very cold there, in the winter. So it's not the best port they have. And now they have to look what south. That's the best port to have is south, eh? So anyway, we'll be coming to that. Russia must therefore look north and south. This is what Peter the Great said. Do a seaport in the north, do a seaport in the south. You will have access to the Atlantic and to the Pacific, to the Mediterranean, and then the world is yours. So, whoops, look at that. Ukraine is in the south. You see Russia here, and you see Ukraine. Hello. Here we go. Ukraine is right there. Very close to the Black Sea. And the Black Sea will lead you to the China Sea. And China Sea will lead you to the Pacific. Or if you want, you can go by the Canal Suez and get to the Mediterranean Sea. And there you got the Atlantic Sea, and you're free to go wherever you want to go. Okay, so here we go. We have Ukraine here, and there's the Black Sea, eh? And the Black Sea will go here to Istanbul, and you get here, and then you have access. You have access to all the seas. It's interesting. Now the other points, number 3 of his will. Always keep the Russian nation in constant alert. This will help the army to be always ready. Get the troops worked out a little bit, get them on alert. You got to keep them in good shape. You got to keep them in warlike fashion, So get them going a little bit here and there. Well, in time of peace, he said, then in time of peace, take all your money. Put as much of finance as you got, put that to the art of war, buy equipment, build ships and so forth. Be ready, okay? In times of peace, just prepare yourself. Build up an army, build up a fleet. And then number 4, from the civilized nation, we're talking about 1700 there. So from the civilized nations of Europe, recruit men of science and of learning. Their knowledge, get these men to come to Russia and give them good jobs, and they will bring in knowledge, and knowledge will be now at your service. We're so backward as we are compared to Europe, he said. Let's get the knowledge from Europe, bring it, and let it be at our services. Other points of his will? Well, you got to mingle. Mingle with the surrounding nations. Now, I'm not saying mingle in the sense of mingling, but it's more get involved. Get involved and get them involved. You know, get them involved. Make sure that you create an atmosphere of unrest and jealousy between nations. You see, get the surrounding nations to be at war with each other. Create discord, weaken them, and then pick them up. Just pick them up. Occupy these countries, and they will be yours. That's the way you're gonna increase in power. Now, the source is The Will of Peter. Like I said, Google it. The Will of Peter the Great. Now, Peter the Great's expansions plan in action by Mr. Putin. So, Mr. Putin, what he's doing, he has his chess there, chess things. He has them. He's already playing chess, you know. He's moving forward, sometimes backward, but most of the time he wants to go forward, okay? And what actually he's doing, he's just following up what Peter the Great told in his last will. Russian presence, presently, Russia is everywhere. For the last 5 or 6 years, Russia is getting involved in all these Asiatic countries. It is in Lebanon now, in Iran, it helped Iran, in Syria the same, in Turkey the same, you know. Russia is now even at the border of Israel. Just imagine. So their presence, they are mingling like never before. Now, what do you think will happen to Ukraine? That is the question. We now know the answer. When I did that video, there was a lot of ifs and ifs, but now Ukraine has been attacked by Russia. So we know the answer here now. Now, the political bet was by invading Ukraine, Mr. Vladimir Putin, Tsar of Russia, is taking a risk. How will the West react? We don't know yet. We certainly don't know. We hear a lot of talking, but nobody really is coming straight forward. You know, they're just turning around the problem, as it were. Okay, so he's taking a big risk. Now, will he follow the advice and instruction of his predecessor, Peter the Great? Yes, he did. He now did. He invaded Ukraine. Why did he invade Ukraine? A seaport. The seaport is so important. Ukraine has the best seaport that one could have, and it gives you access to the Black Sea. So this is what he wants. He wants a southern seaport. It doesn't matter if Ukraine has uranium or if Ukraine has a lot of wheat and things like that. Ukraine must be number one in many things, but for him, it is the seaport for his marine fleet. I've seen something like they were comparing the submarines of USA and the submarines of USSR or Russia. Russia has now one more than US. So where are we going? A bigger fleet if you want to control the world. Now, this is the Chinese leader and the Russian Tsar. And what is Mr. Putin saying? Well, maybe he's saying, look at this beautiful seaport. And this other guy, Chinese guy, says, no, let's look at Hong Kong, maybe Taiwan. But anyways, I'll explain that in number 2. Part number 2 coming up. we'll see the aspirations of these two leaders, two leaders, and then we'll go to the identification of all the names found in Ezekiel 38 and 39. It is very interesting that all the names there, Gog, Magog, and Gomer, and all these names there, they are all linked to Genesis 10, verse 2 and 3. Suddenly they pop up, you know, when you get to Ezekiel 38, you see all these names and you don't know where they come from. Well, I will show you where they come from. It's like Japheth, which was the third son of Noah, was the youngest one. Japheth had 7 children. Gomer was his firstborn, and then Magog was his secondborn, and the territory of Russia takes the same name as Magog. It takes the name of the second son of Japheth. It's like Japheth went under the radar. You know, when we come to names, we have Sham and Sam, but Japheth was, he went under the radar. We didn't see any of his sons except when we get to 38, Ezekiel 38 and 39. So I'll be taking that in video number 2 and number 3. So like I say, this is a test. I just want to find out if there is an audience in the English world that wants to understand prophecy. And if possible, I would like to get some subscribers. If I do get a lot of subscribers, I will continue and do many videos in English. In French, Lumière sur la prophétie biblique, I took up the book. I got maybe 200 videos, I don't know. But I'm doing the book of Daniel, which I called A Good Daniel, Can Go Anywhere in Prophecy. And we just released today number 44th video on Daniel 11:36. The king there, the king of self-will, how to recognize him, how to identify him. This we did in French. So if we get a good audience, remember, subscribe. Not only subscribe, but when you see the bell, ding ding, push on it. So anyways, I wish you a good, this is Lord's Day, a good Lord's Day, and stay tuned, and Maranatha, which means the Lord is coming, and this is our blessed hope. So may the Lord keep you. Have a good day. Thank you.